Hey everyone, this is Wendy with the AALRC. I am so sorry that I could not be there with you today. However, I was not going to let you get away without getting information from me. So I'm going to be giving you a presentation and a short video. And then if there are any questions, there will be a Padlet at the end of this video that you can take a look at, scan with your phone. So have that ready because you'll be able to drop in questions and get you a few resources that will discuss today as well. All right, let's hop into it. What we're going to discuss today is understanding the role of the educator when it comes to learning disabilities, as well as taking action in those learning disabilities, and especially if you have a suspected disability, and then community partnerships and a little bit on transition planning. It's important to understand that the signs and symptoms of learning disabilities can be seen in any aspect whatsoever. We see that very often in the classroom in the terms of reading barriers, math barriers, social barriers, technology barriers. There's a lot of different barriers that can happen within the classroom when trying to understand those learning disabilities within our students. Now, when you are trying to understand those learning disabilities, I know that it can be confusing as to what if a student has a disability versus if they don't have a disability, whether you suspect a disability, it can all get a little confusing. So you will have a handout there that is provided for you. And on that handout, it'll tell you the steps for a student that might disclose a disability, as well as steps for a student that may not disclose a disability, but you might suspect that there might be something there. So when looking at that, you have to understand the 3 C's. You have that conversation and you have to start with that confidentiality agreement. So that student knows that everything we're going to talk about from this point on is going to be confidential. You want to create a folder and create a safe space for that student to be able to have that conversation. And with that conversation, if you were to look at number 4 on that handout, it has some questions that you can ask if that student may not know if they have a learning disability or not. But we don't want to pry. We don't want to kind of bring up something that may trigger some type of feelings or emotions about their past experiences. So it's just some basic questions to see if maybe they may have received services under response to intervention or RTI under 504 or with an IEP. Now, we also have to understand that effective collaboration with our community partners is something that has to be done. We cannot do it all. We don't even do it all. We can do everything on our own. So we have to have community partners in order to help us. And so to lay the foundation of that, I wanted to show you a really quick video that's going to lead into the next part. All right. So one thing about that video that I wanted you to understand is that P&G every year for the Olympics, every Olympic year, they put out a commercial to support and say, "Thank you, Mom." And the thing that P&G understands is that even though these athletes have incredible experience, even though they have a credible foundation, that there are other people behind the scenes that got them to where they are. So that is you in this role. We have to understand that we recognize that you are the ones that are going to help a student get to a next level, help a student get to a position where they can be a productive member of society and be able to have gainful employment. So you are an important member and an important role within that aspect. Our other community partners that help in that role are people such as Arkansas Rehab Services. So if you are not familiar with Arkansas Rehab Services, it is going to be very pertinent that you become familiar with Arkansas Rehab. It is not a fail-proof system. However, it is one that is a good support system for our students that may or may not have disabilities, but can get that type of testing that they need to see if they have a disability. So if a student have a disability or a suspected disability, or if the student is looking for employment or looking for more gainful employment, they can be referred to Arkansas Rehabilitation Services. The role of rehabilitation services is much bigger than just referring or testing. They can do a lot of different things. And those persons who come here for LD Comprehensive, we have Arkansas Rehab in-house so that you can understand firsthand the type of resources that they provide. So employment assistance and self-employment entrepreneurship, if someone wants to start a business and they have a business idea, and they can help them get started with that. Or if they might need help getting into school, need a little scholarship money, there's scholarship opportunities available. If they need accessibility materials, a pen reader, an iPad, something that's going to help them be productive within their educational environment, Arkansas Rehab Services can help provide that for that student. And some effective collaboration strategies that you can use. You want to know your regional contact. You can simply Google Arkansas Rehabilitation Services. Find your regional contact and make sure that you are connected with whomever they are, because they're going to be important in connecting those students to those resources. Set up a scheduled virtual meeting just to say, hey, introduce yourself. Or I have one center that does it quarterly, and they have a conversation about what the center might need, what students might need. And so they are constantly in conversation to make sure that no student falls through the gaps. Invite them to orientation or to open house whenever you have those. One thing that I did when I was in the classroom, I had bagels and barriers. I would invite my community resource partners in and my students in for bagels and breakfast, because you know they love to eat. So you bring them in, lure them in with food, and then I had my community partners to come in and just talk to them about the resources that they had and the things that they could offer and help them be successful in and out of school. Another good idea is donuts and disabilities. That's something that we did for staff development. We had a disability, we brought donuts, and we would talk about some strategies in order to help with that. It doesn't have to be you. You can have someone to zoom in and do a little piece. You could have someone to come there and actually talk to the staff about how to meet the needs of students with disabilities. It could be ARS as well. So there are a lot of different ideas in order to get those conversations happening. And it's important for you to understand how to track those accommodations from entry to exit. It's going to be important for that student to be successful. And in tracking that evidence, you have to have those TABE scores, any writing or math samples, evidence of their classroom work, if they're failing multiple tests, if they're struggling on certain writing samples, if they're struggling on certain academic concepts. We want to document that. And when you document that, make those your educational notes so that that can be used if you have to make a referral to ARS. If they are there and they have a psychological testing or any type of medical documentation that have been completed within the last 5 years, make sure that you request that information as well. Medical documentation is very important. Even if a student is taking medication and it seems to be under control or however, it's important for the staff to know this. I had one student that was taking ibuprofen, and that is a antipsychotic. And so it's fine when the student was on it, but if the student is off that medication, we as staff need to understand what those symptoms look like, what the signs look like, so that we can make sure that we are aware in order to help a particular student if there is a medical barrier. So all the information that you have in order to help a student helps, except mama said, and except self-diagnosis. Those do not count whatsoever. And also, we know that those students that may have barriers have a bigger chance of being lost. So we have to document and make sure that we are really using efforts to make sure that they stay within the learning environment. They come in with maybe past experiences or maybe other barriers that may have them a little weary about the environment, and anything can trigger that flight syndrome within our students. So we want to make sure that we document those efforts via any applicable mediums, meaning phone, email, text, or whatever the case may be. Remind app, something to make sure that we're trying to re-engage that student. Have conversations at staff meetings. Has so-and-so seen this person and this and that? And once you reach them, remind them that there are educational supports that we can try. It's not a one-size-fit-all. It's not cookie cutter, but there are things that we will try until we figure out something that will stick and work. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your role as the educator when it comes to that transition. It's very important from entry to exit. We know that some students may come in with a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of that fear of, I may not be successful in this environment because I wasn't successful in the last environment. So you as the educator, you're the first line of defense against that way of thinking and against that student understanding that they could be successful in this particular environment. So when looking at this particular aspect, we have to understand that you as the educator play a very vital role in supporting the students through that process. You have to be able to assess those students' strengths and needs, collaborate with those support services, know how to do a good transition plan and student learning plan, be able to give them guidance and advocacy help, and connect them to those resources that's going to help them be successful in their transitional role. Some key components of a transition plan and transition planning, you want to make sure that they include those academic goals, any vocational training that may happen, which you could have community partners that can help you with that as well. Any type of independent living skills, independent living needs. Do they need housing and those types of things? Again, community partners can help with those things. Any social emotional support that could be tailored to the student needs, and any family support services. So it basically aims to facilitate a seamless transition from school to post-employment opportunities, to try to give them the opportunity, give them taste of success so that they know that there is more out there than what they could have possibly thought in the past. When supporting those students in those inclusive and supportive practices, it's important for you to understand how to empower those students with those learning disabilities and enhance their overall learning experience in order to increase that completion. Some things that you could do as an educator. You want to learn how to apply that universal design for learning. I know that many of you have heard about UDL, Universal Design for Learning. It is not a hard practice, but it is a practice that is a successful practice. So you can simply Google UDL CAST and it will show you some good tips and videos and practices in order to help. And there are other resources that will be on that Padlet as well at the end. You could attend Links training. I myself, as well as some other state staff, has attended Links training this summer. That's been very valuable in helping to meet the needs of students. And then when it comes to the AALRC, please attend trainings. If you sign up, show up. If you see something on there that's going to be beneficial, take advantage of it. We do a lot of research, a lot of work to find people who are going to be impactful in the field. So take advantage of any type of foundational and core based training that might help enhance those teaching practices. All right, so in wrapping everything up, we want to understand that it's important for you to make sure that you are empowering those students with learning disabilities. You have to know your role in order to support them, but it is such a rewarding role. You got to make sure that you tailor those accommodations to meet the unique needs of your students. Build those community partnerships so that you can collaborate effectively and enhance the transitional efforts of your students. You got to have that seamless, smooth transition from entry to exit. And understand that you can't do any of those things unless you empower yourself with the tools that you need in order to reach those goals, in order to help those students. If you don't know, they won't know. It's as simple as that. So in conclusion, if you do not have to know all of the answers, you can definitely reach out to the AALRC anytime. We are here to support. And as promised, here is the QR code for the Padlet. Just scan that. You will find a place on there where you can drop questions for me, and I will hop in there and get them answered for you, as well as other resources that could be beneficial for you in understanding how to meet the needs of your students. And if there's anything else that you need, feel free to reach out. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for listening.